You might be at the stage of starting a new research project, and that can feel a bit daunting. The journey usually begins with drafting a concept sheet or note. From there, you will develop a research protocol, which then needs to go through ethical approval. Once approved, you can begin the research itself, which involves collecting and analyzing data. After that, you will write your research manuscript. If you are doing this as part of a program, your work will also be reviewed and evaluated. Finally, once any revisions are complete, you will submit the manuscript to be archived or published. But let's start at the first step. The concept sheet. It is a short document outlining your research idea. It can be used as a framework for early discussion and feedback, and will likely help you save time before writing out the full protocol. So, what are the key components? It includes a title, background, research question, the primary and secondary aims, and the references. So why create a concept sheet? A concept sheet should be short but detailed enough for feedback from mentors, supervisors, or collaborators. It helps identify flaws early and sharpen the research question, and it is often required for internal approval or seed funding applications. But before generating your concept sheet, you need to have a research idea and research question. You can use the tools on subtract.com to help generate an idea and refine your research question. So how does this work? Let's take a look. Here's the research idea generation tool. Let's say I am a young doctor who is interested in specializing in general surgery. My interests are in surgical skills, medical education, and emerging technologies. I don't have much experience in conducting research, but I am interested in quantitative research methods as well as in mixed method studies. I'm particularly interested in the use of simulations for enhancing surgical skills and the use of AI to enhance clinical and diagnostic skills. I think that is a pretty cool and exciting space. I haven't done an intensive review of the literature yet, so I will say that I am not sure if there is a specific gap that exists in the literature. I would like to complete this research as part of a master's program, and my long-term professional goal is to specialize in general surgery. Based on this information, let's see what ideas the tool suggests. So this is the output where there is a summary of my input. You are a budding researcher in the field of general surgery with a strong interest in surgical skills, medical education, and the integration of emerging technologies. Your focus on quantitative and mixed methods research, along with your enthusiasm for simulation training and AI applications, provides a solid foundation for impactful research. Your goal of developing a master's thesis and advancing your career as a general surgeon aligns well with the following research ideas. Okay, so let's take a look. Here are some ideas that this tool has suggested. First, it suggested simulation and training efficacy. Here you can find the description of the idea and why it may be a good fit. The research questions suggested here are: how does participation in simulation training affect the surgical skill performance scores of medical students compared to those who receive traditional training methods? This one seems complicated as I will need to compare two groups, basically a RCT, to answer this question. Given my limited experience, maybe this isn't the best one for me. And the second suggestion is: what is the relationship between simulation training and self-reported confidence levels in performing surgical procedures among medical students? Personally, I think the second question is interesting to me and seems more feasible compared to the first one. But let me read through the other ideas as well. Okay, having gone through all the options, I actually think this one. What themes emerge from qualitative interviews with surgical trainees regarding their experiences with AI-enhanced educational tools, and how do these themes correlate with their quantitative performance outcomes, is also interesting, but it is a more qualitative, and I am not super familiar with this methodology. So I think I'll go with the original example. What is the relationship between simulation training and self-reported confidence levels in performing surgical procedures among medical students? So now that we have a draft research question, we need to critically appraise our question, looking at its structure and focus and practical viability and impact. And there are two frameworks we can use for this: PICO and Finer Maps. PICO, or PICOT, stands for Population, Intervention, Control, Outcome, and Time Frame. So these are the components that should be included in the research question if possible. Next, we use Finer Maps to assess its viability and impact, and this stands for feasible, interesting, novel, ethical, relevant, manageable, appropriate, potential value, and systematic. Consider if your question has these qualities. We have built a tool to help you do just that. Simply add your research question here and review your score. You'll find an overall score and your individual PICO and Finer Maps score. You can also find some explanations for the score. There's also a feedback section which highlights what was done well and how we could improve our question. Lastly, towards the end, you can find some example questions. The first is: what is the impact of simulation training compared to traditional methods on self-reported confidence levels in performing laparoscopic procedures among medical students? This is said to be better because this modification clarifies the comparison and specifies the type of surgical procedure, enhancing focus and manageability. The next is, how do self-reported confidence levels in performing surgical procedures differ between medical students who undergo simulation training and those who receive conventional training? It says that this version explicitly states the comparison, making the research question clearer and more structured. And lastly, what validated measures can effectively assess self-reported confidence levels in surgical procedures among medical students trained through simulation? This question shifts the focus to measurement, addressing the vagueness of the outcome and enhancing specificity. So the first two seem to focus on requiring two groups, right? Much like a randomized control study, which I pointed out might be a challenge. But now that I think about this, it is probably the better way to go when addressing the original draft question, right? The last version also seems daunting as it requires some expertise in creating validated instruments, so I would definitely need help there. So I'm not sure if these are a good fit, which is okay. I can always modify these or go back to the idea generator tool and try again. This can be an iterative process. Maybe I can get feedback from colleagues, supervisors, and mentors too. So that is the Research Idea Generator tool and Research Question Validator tool. We hope you find them useful. Check them out on subtract.com.